I'm joined now by Peter McGuire of CWA Global Markets. So Peter, thank you very much for joining us. These costs, they do keep escalating. How bad is it going to get? What do you think?
Well, good morning, Lindsay. One of the great challenges is, Lindsay, as far as fines and penalties are concerned. And if the US does pursue this all the way, they're talking between $1,100 and $4,300 for every barrel, and that equates to the best part of about $17 billion in fines. So they're massive numbers for BP. So there's major concerns ahead for them.
Now, how do you think they're going to pay for this? I mean, they're talking about asset sales. Some people have suggested that they could take on a strategic investor in the Middle East. It's not. They may have to look at something other than asset sales.
Well, of course, and then you can look at the top 10 shareholders, Lindsay. I'm sure they'd veto most of these deals. But when you've got Qatar and Kuwait and they're just and Libya, of course, sniffing around, these assets are very, very highly prized assets across the whole region, from Venezuela to Colombia to Vietnam. So there could be some bidding going on behind the scenes, and I'm sure our good friends in China will be very interested too, Lindsay.
Okay, I mean, but these assets, they're in Vietnam, they're in Venezuela, they're in Colombia. These aren't the most prized assets of BP, are they?
No, they're certainly not. But the reality is that they probably sell the ones that are the hardest to retrieve and probably just take the easy ones off first. I'm sure they'll probably look also at a name change, possibly. You know that they changed their name from British Petroleum in 1998. And of course, their long-term name was, in the old days, Anglo-Iranian Oil. So they could be looking for a name change for BP as well, Lindsay.
That sounds very drastic indeed. Well, I guess you can't have a name change without a change at the top in terms of management. Assume you expect that as well.
Well, I think you'd have to. I'd say, you know, looking from the chair down, certainly the CEO and possibly a number of the other key management, either they're going to fall on their sword very shortly or they'll stay in the position. But I think the consensus across Main Street would be probably falling on their sword over the next, 30 to 60 days. I wouldn't be surprised if that, and then moving on, who's going to replace them. And there's some very, very polished people that could move into that place.
Okay, now when we talk about, what BP's options are in terms of raising this money, the price of oil actually has quite a lot to do with this. If the oil price drops, it's going to be more difficult for BP to get the cash together. What is your outlook for prices?
Well, that's a great challenge. I mean, you think back to Russia in its heyday. Russia was, again, a great exporter of crude oil, and same with Saudi Arabia. So BP, ironically, needs $75 to $85 price range at least to make this, as less painful as possible. From where oil is at the moment, Lindsay, you're probably going to look around that number, 70 to 85 over the next couple of months, unless we get something dramatic on a hurricane situation or geopolitical, Lindsay.
Very quickly, Peter, are these shares cheap or are they going to go lower?
$29 today. They were 62 going back into April. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit lower. Fitch have dropped them 6 points, so I'd say lower.
Great. Thanks very much, Peter McGuire.